Hey, welcome to the I. Okay, so things that should be included in your evaluation are the conclusion and the evaluation, which is slightly confusing. Your conclusion should be around 1 page of writing, and when we say 1 page of writing, we mean a sensible font and a sensible size, like no bigger than font size 12. Your conclusion should start with an answer to your research question. So there's no need to repeat the full research question, but an answer to it needs to be the beginning of your conclusion. So the research question is obviously a question that requires an answer, and your data should answer that question. The second part of your conclusion, paragraph 2, will be to discuss the results that you've got. So lots of people try and discuss the results in the analysis. You don't need to. The analysis is just your data and your stats and your graph. The conclusion is a place for the discussion. So what you need to do is pick out any trends. So if you've drawn a graph, obviously there'll be some trends within the graph. Identify anomalies. If you want to, you can kind of try and justify the anomalies, but then save most of that for the evaluation. Identify any unexpected results. So if you got the opposite to what you expected, now's the time to say that, and it's fine if you did, but you need to obviously acknowledge that you realize that it's different to what you expected. You also need to explain what the standard deviations are telling you. So one single standard deviation by itself is pointless. You need more than one in order to compare them. So the higher the standard deviation, the more variation around the mean, the more spread around the mean, which makes the data less valid and reliable. Paragraph 3, you're going to discuss your stats test. So it needs to be obvious and clear that you understand the stats test and you understand why you did it and what it's actually telling you. So many times I just see screenshots of online calculators and in the analysis, and then there's just no reference to the stats test anywhere, which means that the student didn't understand what they were doing or why they were doing it. And discuss whether the stats test backs up your hypothesis and backs up what you've talked about in paragraph 2. Paragraph 4, and maybe even paragraph 5 as well, is justifying your results using scientific knowledge. So you need to explain why that happened, like why did you get those results, and you have to reference this. So you might use some of the same sources from your background information, but obviously any scientific information will need to be referenced. And if there's any similar studies that got similar results to you, include them here and discuss, because then that backs up what you've done as well. So there shouldn't be a study that's exactly the same as yours, but there might be one that's similar. And if there isn't a study that got similar results, then why not? If the reason is because there's lots of things in if the evaluation goes into this in more detail, then leave it out, wait for the evaluation. But you can talk about why the results didn't match other studies if you want to. Often as well, students will say, "Oh, I can't find any study that's similar." You probably can. Like, I very much doubt that your work is completely original and no one's ever done any work on your independent variable before. So there should be similar studies out there for almost everything. Okay. In the evaluation, you need to start with the strengths. So paragraph 1 should outline at least 3 strengths of the investigation, and they should be strengths that refer to the reliability, validity, precision, and accuracy of the investigation. Now, these 4 terms are terms that are thrown around willy-nilly within your IAs, and no one really understands what they mean. So I've outlined the key terminology at the top for you. So the more repeats you have, the more reliable your results are. Validity refers to how well the research actually fulfills the initial research question. Precision is how repeatable is it and how reliable is it? Would somebody be able to repeat it and obtain similar results? And accuracy is how accurate are the results as a result of the equipment that you used, and could you have used equipment with more accuracy? So just think about which one of these terms you're going to use, and don't just refer to things being more fair or it would make it more valid, it would make it more precise. You need to explain why at this stage if you want to get a decent mark. So evaluation 1.5 to 2 pages. First paragraph, 3 strengths that refer to reliability, validity, precision, and and accuracy. Now, paragraphs 2 to 6, each paragraph will address a weakness of the investigation. And then you will suggest in as much detail as possible how you would improve the investigation in order to eliminate this weakness. You need to make sure that you have at least 5 weaknesses and improvements. And if you want to present it in a table format, you can, but make sure that you keep the detail in there. So just because it's in a table, often students seem to think that it doesn't need to be as detailed. It does. And again, you can refer to reliability, validity, precision, and accuracy, but please do it correctly. And don't just say it would make it more fair. Or again, don't just say it would make it more reliable. You need to explain why it would make it more reliable, more valid, more precise, more accurate. The final part of the evaluation is suggesting how you could extend the investigation. Now, these suggestions should be things that would enhance your knowledge of the topic and would enhance the range of data collected. So you might want to then say why you would extend the investigation like that, and give some context and justification as to the reasons why it would be useful. In the extensions as well, you can reference other studies. If other studies are similar, you can do that. Okay, so this is the marking rubric for the evaluation. Just be aware that you can see that each band builds on the previous one. So this one, a conclusion is outlined, which is not relevant. A conclusion is described. A conclusion is described and justified. And then you can see here that correctly described and justified through relevant comparison to accepted scientific context. Now, students tend to leave out the explanation using scientific information, like they always leave it out. Don't, because you won't get 5 to 6 marks if you leave it out. Then you've got your strengths and weaknesses, suggestions for improvement and extension there. Okay, just to end, communication is worth 4 of the 24 overall marks, and these are just a few pointers of what will help you to gain higher marks in communication. It's actually really easy to lose marks here. So you're going to have a maximum of 12 pages. Your font size is going to be no larger than 12 and a sensible font. I don't want a fancy font, just like Times New Roman or Calibri or something. The presentation and formatting should be professional and presentable. Don't find someone else's IA and think, oh, that looks good, and then just copy theirs. Make sure that it's original and it's your own formatting. The order of the sections should allow flow. So I've pretty much told you the order that the sections should be in, so there's no excuses there. You need to use the correct scientific conventions, including units, so correctly using subscript and superscript for things like if you write CO2 and O2, H2O, things like that. Don't just put a big 2. Make sure that it's a correct small one at the top or bottom, as in subscript or superscript. Make sure that graphs are correctly drawn, tables are correctly drawn. The tables and graphs should be a sensible size. Graphs should be around half a page in size. I see really often students have tried to save space by putting in the world's smallest graph that you can't actually read, which then is deemed useless because you can't read it. Tables should obviously have things like descriptive headings, units, uncertainty, all of the things that you were told to include in the analysis. And tables shouldn't be split across pages. So a data table should only take up 1 page. And of course, all of your information needs to be properly referenced and fully cited in the body of the text. So just sticking a bibliography at the end isn't enough. Any information needs to be properly cited and referenced within bibliography in order to get 4 marks. That's it.